Hello, happy Tuesday. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Adriana from Mama More Dolls, and today we are doing another live with another special guest. And as you know, this February has been a month of doulas. We have been interviewing a few doulas that are doing different things in their practices. And I wanted to bring someone very special today. She is the queen of the placentas, and her name is Jodi Selander, and she's here to talk about placentas and about training as well. And I hope you're enjoying today's live with us. If you are watching the replay, if you have any questions for Jodi, make sure that you write them in the comments area, and then I will make sure that I'll pass those questions to her. We are going to write her contact information, so you have anything that you need to ask Jodi, you can actually do that. But I am going to start talking, and I am going to welcome Jodi to our Facebook Live today. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very well, thank you.
Jodi, where are you located right now?
I am in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Wow, and is the weather nice there right now?
Well, it was, and for some reason it seems that winter decided to catch up to us. So it's actually a little bit chilly here today.
Chilly. Well, because we are here in Edmonton, Alberta, which is, March almost, and it's still really cold. We had a very nice sunny days. But I am really looking forward to coming those spring days with a little bit more heat here because it's really cold. Yeah. So anyway, let's go quickly to our conversation about placentas.
Okay.
And can you tell us, so how did you start working in this field? Okay. And what is exactly that you do, Jodi? Tell us.
All right. Well, it feels like I've been kind of doing this forever. I started Placenta Benefits Info, or it's come to be known as PBI, 12 years ago now. Yeah, so it's been a while. It was officially launched in January of 2006. It was after the birth of my second daughter. And so my oldest daughter was born in 2002. And after she was born, I had a bit of trouble with some postpartum depression. And so back then they put me on antidepressants, and I was just on them, and they helped, and I needed them. And then they just had me stay on them. And then 3 years later, I got pregnant again with my second daughter. And they were like, oh, it'll be fine. Just stay on the antidepressant during your pregnancy. And I just wasn't very comfortable with that. So I ended up stopping the prescription once I learned about my pregnancy. Okay. And so we had moved here to Las Vegas at that point, and I connected with a group of natural birth advocates or professionals. And so it was a group of, midwives, doulas, lactation consultants, and they would put on these classes, kind of free workshops every month. It was a great organization. And so I was seeing a midwife, and so I went to that, and one of the speakers was speaking on postpartum recovery, and she was a local acupuncturist. So she was an actual acupuncturist and practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. And so I approached her after the meeting, and I asked her, what could I do naturally to help in the postpartum recovery? Because I still had all the risk factors, and I was hoping to avoid the prescription antidepressant. And she made this kind of offhand joke, and she said, well, you can eat the placenta. And I was like, well, okay, so what else can I do? And she kind of laughed, and she then explained that in traditional Chinese medicine, the placenta can be dried, ground, and put into a capsule, and then you only have to take that capsule as a postpartum supplement and get the effects. So I was very interested in that, and so I started looking into the research. And back then, most of the research was all just done on mammals, like rodents and mice and rats. Okay. And but the studies were very compelling. They were showing a difference between the placenta groups and the non-placenta groups. And so at that point, I was very interested. And so my baby was born. She was born at home. And so we put the placenta in the fridge. And the acupuncturist had shared the Materia Medica, from the Journal of Traditional Chinese Medicine. So I had a loose reference for how to prepare it according to their policies, I guess, their methods. And so I prepared her placenta in my kitchen. And I figured it would just maybe help a little bit. I didn't have any expectations. And the difference between my first postpartum recovery and my second postpartum recovery with placenta capsules was like night and day. It was incredible. I had so much energy. I felt good. I felt just normal, like myself. And so I was really surprised by how well it helped me. And so then when my baby was a few months old, I went back to those meetings, and I just gave a little presentation, and I started sharing my story. I just started telling moms, like, what I had done and how it helped me. And back then I couldn't get a lot of interest in moms who were pregnant for the first time, but I had a lot of interest from moms who had already had a baby and maybe suffered from some postnatal issues. And once you've gone through that, you're very willing and a lot more open-minded to try anything. You really don't want to go through that again. And so that's how this all started, was they would approach me and they would say, that's interesting and I'm willing to try it, but I don't want to touch my placenta. Exactly. And so then I was like, well, I'd be happy to do it for you. And that's what started the service field, the service portion of my business that I've been doing ever since for women here in Las Vegas. And I worked with the local health department to get set up to offer the service, professionally. And then that led to working with hospitals and advocacy for moms to get the placentas released, because the local hospitals here were very resistant at first, because they were labeling, at that time, they had labeled placenta as a biohazard medical waste, and they wouldn't release it. So we had to go through some kind of protest action, advocacy work, a lot of education in the hospitals. We won an actual court case where a hospital had refused to give a placenta. And then once the court ruled in our favor, everything kind of took a turn at that point. And then the hospitals were much more willing. We came up with release policies and safety procedures. I sent and wrote out my whole standard operating procedures for PBI, and I sent them into the local, the US FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, because they're the ones that kind of oversee any sort of food prep or drug kind of things. And they weren't quite sure where placenta would lie, whether it would be a food or a drug. But so I sent in all of my standard operating procedures, and to my knowledge, PBI is the only training and certification organization that has done that. And once that was pretty much cleared, then that is when I released the PBI Placenta Encapsulation Specialist training and certification course, because once I knew that our safety procedures were clearing the health district standards and making sure that we were going to be keeping moms safe. And then once I was sure that the FDA wasn't going to come after us, I guess is a way to say it.
That's basically, yeah.
Yeah. Then I felt confident enough to then release the training, because at that point, this was 2007 now. By that point, I had a lot of interest from, midwives and doulas who wanted to prepare the placentas for women in their community. And so that's kind of how that all started. And the training and certification course came online in summer of 2007. And we've gone through a few iterations and updates and things, staying current with policies and procedures and safety protocols as they get developed and things like that. And so we've been training people since that time, and I've trained people in about 5 or 6 countries now all over the world, and have worked with health organizations in Canada, Australia, the UK. And so it's ended up being, I feel like, a very good thing that we've ended up training a lot of women who are very passionate about mothers and about postpartum health and about placentas, but just general postpartum and serving moms. And it's a great, if you are a doula or a midwife or serve mothers in some capacity as maybe a lactation consultant, placenta encapsulation is a great kind of add-on service that you can then provide even more options to mothers in your area.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to ask you. Is if what was the percentage of the people that are actually taking the training that are doulas? I am sure is pretty high.
It is pretty high. There's a lot of crossover. I would say it's more common for a doula to add placenta encapsulation, but some, for birth doulas. But now we have a lot of postpartum doulas, which is wonderful, because a lot of times there's a lot of focus on the pregnancy and then on the birth, and there's a lot of birth education, there's a lot of birth support. And then once the baby's born, a lot of that support falls away. And so I'm really happy that in the past several years now, we've seen a fueling or a surge of postpartum services being offered to moms and to women. And so it's a great way for a postpartum doula to come into the home, prepare the placenta for the mom, be there. PBI advocates only preparing in the mother's home, because for one thing, we're in her safety zone, but we can also kind of see what kind of familial support she has. How is she coping with things? What is her kind of an affect? Does she have the support she needs? And then be able to kind of see if there are maybe issues that we can, if we can't provide the service. So say I'm a lactation educator, I'm not a lactation consultant, but a lot of times my clients will open up to me about problems they're having with breastfeeding. And I always ask how it's going. Because if they do want to breastfeed their baby, then it's important to get them those resources as soon as possible after the birth, because it's hard to bring in a lactation consultant when mom has already been suffering for 6 or 8 weeks with issues, and they're already kind of on this downhill slide. Whereas if we're in their home within 4 or 5 days of the birth, or within the first 5 days, I should say, then we can see and kind of head those off, and she has a much easier time of it and a higher success rate for breastfeeding successfully. So there's a lot of benefits to providing that level of service to mothers.
Yeah. I was just remembering my children are older now, but I remember that at the time when I had my babies, we just buried the placenta. It was at that time. It's about my oldest child is 18 right now, so it's been a while. But it was not as popular as now. And from after I took my doula training, and from that time on, that it was almost 10 years ago, I can see that many moms are talking about placenta encapsulation, and many doulas are, as you said, adding that into their practices and offering like the extra service. So I am very happy to see that this is happening actually, because it seems that there is a lot more education about it right now. And that's a great thing to think. The other thing I was going to ask you is, in terms of many of the ladies and gentlemen in our audience, they are actually doulas, or they are thinking to become a doula. And many of them are also thinking about adding some extra training. So can you tell us about PBI, and can you tell us about a little bit about the training that they can take? And
I would love to.
Yes.
So the course has, as I said, it's very comprehensive. So it's available to anybody on placentacourse.com. And you need to create an account. There's no cost to create the account. And then you can kind of see the whole syllabus and what each course entails. And it's an 8-course series. So there's a series of 8 courses that you would go through for the full, what we call the Placenta Encapsulation Specialist training course. And Placenta Encapsulation Specialist is actually a term that I came up with all those years ago to describe my service. And it is now the official, it's trademarked to Placenta Benefits, and it is the title that you achieve once you go through that training course, all 8 modules. So the course is going to take you through a general overview. It's going to take you through the 3 main principles of placentophagy within traditional Chinese medicine. So traditional Chinese medicine, once you prepare it this way that I would train you in, you end up with what's called ZHA. And it's one of the most powerful tonifiers in the traditional Chinese medicine arsenal. So you'll go kind of in depth into those principles. So that's 3 of the courses. There's one on lactation, which is, there's a little bit of some misinformation about placenta and lactation. There's a misinformation being shared that placenta actually decreases milk production, is actually bad for breastfeeding mothers, which is actually not the case. Okay. The ways that the placenta interacts with your system and your endocrine system while you're pregnant is completely different than how the placenta interacts with your system as ZHA.
Okay.
So we go through a lot of that, lactogenesis, and how the placenta is beneficial. There's a whole module on safety and safe food handling and safe preparation and safe methods and why we do things the way we do. There's a whole one on hormones, which is incredibly in depth because obviously our endocrine system is quite complicated. So that walks you through that. That's a pretty, I find it fascinating. So it's a very fascinating module. And then once you get through, once you get through all of those, then you get the tutorials, and the tutorials have video walkthroughs, complete training in how to prepare the placenta according to our method. It also talks about using dried placenta in salves and body butters, creating tinctures, literally kind of any way that you would want to or be able to use the placenta. Is the tutorials. And then each course is just, you pay as you go. So it's not like a full investment. And so you just go on and you're like, oh, I'd like to learn about placenta anatomy today. You can just go and take that course, and it's just $40 US. And then you have 2 weeks, and we actually have people who, there's a combination of videos. There's a combination of articles to read, PowerPoint slideshows, research papers. There's a quiz at the end. There's an essay question. And so we have people, course administrators, who actually are on hand to answer your questions. So it's not just, off and you're doing it on your own. It is self-paced, but we do support you all the way through. Yeah.
And then after I imagine you get a certification.
So at the end of that 8-course series, you get a completion certificate, and it shows that you have completed the full series and the date at which you completed it, and that you are now an official placenta encapsulation specialist. And then if you want to continue on with your training and take it to the next level, which I always recommend that people do, You can take the certification course. So PBI certification is a separate entity from the training. And I do that because the certification goes into a higher level of the safety protocols. It makes sure that you know exactly, you essentially agree to adhere to the policies and the procedures and the principles that PBI stands by and our mission statement and things like that. It also has you go through some bloodborne pathogen. It makes sure that you get set up in your state, province, county, region, because everybody has different regulations surrounding the service.
Yes.
And we help you with that to get you set up in your area and make sure that you are going to be on board with all the correct authorities. And so if people do ask questions or things like that, you are absolutely adhering to all the standards of your area. And then we also have you complete and turn in client certification surveys. So we actually want to hear from your clients and make sure that you're getting positive feedback, and it, just for your own purpose, but then also for our purpose to make sure that, you're providing a high level of service. And then that certification actually needs to be renewed every single year. And we just keep you up to date on your food safety handling, make sure that if things have changed in your area as far as requirements and such, that you're still on board and compliant. And so it's a yearly renewal, and there's no cost if you're a member of PBI. We don't need to charge for that. I just want to make sure that you have what you need. And so if a person is actually PBI certified and current on their certification, they have gone through another level of training and adherence to policies, procedures, and making sure that they're compliant in your region.
Well, that's great. And I like the 1 year, because things change so fast in 1 year.
It does. It really does. And so then the whole course, we are able to then make sure that we're all staying current with the current regulations, because 10 years ago, the regulations were completely different than they are today. And we can't just be like, oh, one certification and you're good. We just really want to make sure that everybody is staying up to speed and making sure that we're providing safe and services, because I certainly wouldn't want a mother to get sick, and I certainly wouldn't want any of my specialists to get into trouble in their area.
Of course. Yeah, well, that sounds fantastic. What I'll do, Jodi, I will add the link to PBI here after we finished the live, so people can go there and find more information, right?
That's fantastic.
The training and the courses and etc. But anyway, we're way past our time. But I love it. I love that you were able to come here and to talk about this today. And I would really, really appreciate it very much. And you know what? I was going to ask you, is it a conference happening in 2018?
Yes, I am very excited. We are hosting our third PlacentaCon.
Yes.
And I know. And so it's going to be a live, an online summit. Okay. And it's happening on June 16th. So anyone in the world can log on, see our presentations from a wide panel of speakers. We have a great conference coming up for everybody. And so it's going to be a bit of a hybrid. If people want to come to Las Vegas on vacation, it is a great destination. We are going to have essentially a watch party where we're going to have catered breakfast and lunch where we can all watch the presentations together. But it's also going to be online. And so wherever you are, you can just log on and spend the day learning about, it's going to be, there's going to be placenta topics, but a lot of it is about postpartum support, postpartum resources, how to best serve mothers in the postpartum period. So it's going to be a great conference.
Wonderful. Well, and where people can find information about the conference, in PBI website?
PBI website, placentacon.com. It has its own website, and we have all the speakers ready. I just need to get the speaker list and things up there. So if they want to watch that website, we're going to be doing the announcements for all the speaker and the speaker list and everything. So it's going to be great.
Okay, fantastic. I am so happy to hear that because I remember when you two started with the conferences, and it was a live one, I think, the first or second one.
The first 2 years it was in person, and it was great. And I still have all those little mini placentas you made for us. So
I know, I remember those. Yes, they are
those were great.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're going to be handing those out again to the people in person, and those are wonderful. I love them.
Fantastic. Okay. Jodi, thank you so much. I am so happy that you were able to come today to talk about placentas here with us. And I will make sure all the links are there for people to contact you.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you around sometime, maybe at a conference or even online. Yes. Now everything is online, so we might be able to cross paths again another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a very nice rest of Tuesday. And we'll probably see you next week or the week after with another live. We don't have anything in particular happening in March. March is a little busy month for me, actually. But we will have some randoms live here and there. And I hope you guys can join us. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Stay there.